Arms are part of the ground equipment and part of the launch table. They're right behind the launcher. You can see the yellow bar there on the left. You get an even better shot in just a moment. The upper stage needs to be filled up to the last minute. Why? Because it's cold propellant evaporates in this heat. And when I say cold, liquid oxygen minus 180 degrees, liquid hydrogen minus 250. Those yellow arms in the middle of your screen, those are the propellant feeder arms. The fuel boils off and needs constant topping up.
À tous de DDO, attention pour moins 1 minute.
The DDO is going to call out the 1 minute mark and we'll be into the final 60 seconds before liftoff.
Top, H0 moins 1 minute.
Well, all that's left to explain is the ignition sequence. Remember we said how power was passing from the ground to the launcher to make her autonomous? Well, this phase, the ignition phase, is already carried out by the onboard computer. Here's what to watch for. It begins when those cryogenic arms, the yellow bars, will pull back at minus 5 seconds when the DDO says 5. At 0, he will call out allumage, which is ignition, and the main engine will light. But we don't lift off quite yet. Count to 7. For 7 seconds, the computers are checking the performance in the main engine while it's burning on the pad. They'll do it twice to confirm it, and then give the order, if all is okay, for ignition of the boosters. Final countdown.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, unité, top, allumage Vulcain. Allumage EAP, décollage.
Wow, beautiful pictures again of Ariane coming roaring off the pad, leaving a trail of gold. I think we've lost her in the clouds. There she is. Did you see the cryo arms open at minus 5? Did you count to 7?
Tous les paramètres sont nominaux.
Everything is on board is okay, says the DDO. At 18:36 local time and right on time, Ariane began her mission, lifting off from the ground here in French Guiana, beginning her first mission of the year, rising into the clear skies over French Guiana, weighing 775 tons right now. She's burning 5 tons of fuel per second, if you can believe that, 2.5 tons in each booster, and the core stage burning an additional 300 kilograms of fuel per second. She is following the program in the onboard computer, which is located in the vehicle equipment bay below the satellites, which gives all the orders, including stage separation. We'll soon begin to see those. We're in the first of 4 flight phases for Ariane. The first 3 are powered. The last is not. We'll describe each in turn so you can follow Ariane as she heads east across the Atlantic to separate the passengers over the east coast of Africa and over the Indian Ocean. Flight phases are right now, the main engine and the 2 boosters are burning. Boosters will burn for another 20 seconds roughly. Then the main engine will burn alone for about 9 minutes. Then the upper stage will burn alone for about 16 minutes. And the final flight phase, not powered, we'll get back to that when it happens. Basically, we're using the simple solid propulsion in the boosters to get off the ground, away from the pull of the Earth, and the more complex liquid propulsion, cryogenics, to obtain speed and performance. We're waiting for confirmation of the booster separation. You'll be able to see that.
Des étages d'accélération à poudre.
There it is. The DDO has just called it out. You can see the 2 boosters falling away, leaving their vapor trail. In the middle is the core stage, Ariane, continuing to burn. Nice shots.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont nominaux.
The boosters will fall 500 kilometers from shore in a protected area. Having done their job, we're now in the second powered flight phase, the main engine.
La trajectoire
burning
est normale.
away. We're coming up on separation of the fairing. Just before we do, take a look at the left-hand side of your screen, the upper left, the cursor crawling up the line. That's actually 2 lines. One is superimposed on another, the optimum trajectory and the real-time trajectory. As long as they're one and the same, we're right where we should be. Below that, 2 lines, A and V. A is our altitude. You see we're climbing. V is our speed. We need between 8 and 9 kilometers per second to inject the satellites.
Largage de la coiffe.
So watch the numbers. The DDO has just said that the fairing has been jettisoned. That's coming right on time. Exposing Amazonas 3. Now you can see the black and blue box on the right. The fairing protects the payload from shocks during Ariane's ascent through the atmosphere. Once we leave the atmosphere at about 100 kilometers up, we don't need it anymore. And we can drop the weight, which is about 500 kilos. The core stage, basically a big propellant tank with the engine. It uses cryogenic propellant. You've heard that word before. Cryogenics offer certain advantages over storable propellant, which is the other option, namely better performance. They can also be turned off and on, and its motors can be reignited and can function longer, and we can see that with the upper stage, which is reignitable on the Ariane, and with the fourth stage called the frigate with the Soyuz. Ariane 1 to 4, previous models, owed their success mainly to storable propellant, not cryogenics. They're fuels that are kept in ambient temperature and don't evaporate like cold cryogenic does, and you saw that before liftoff with the constant topping up we needed. Storable propellant is also cheaper, but cryogenics offer better performance. You can see Amazonas exposed to the elements. Below that is a black bell-shaped structure. That's the Silda, the carrying structure, inside of which is our second passenger. Next up, the latest in a series of profiles of space professions here at the Space Base.
My name is Guillaume Lozak, I'm 31 and I've been working for 5 years with Arianespace as a launch site engineer. I've been living in Kourou for 2 years. I started with launch campaigns prior to looking after ground facilities after gaining experience and knowledge in relation to the needs of the launcher. In terms of the development of my career, after graduating as an aeronautics engineer, I started working on aircraft engines at Airbus, then in the US, and I came back to Europe, where I worked on the development of the ATV, the resupply spacecraft of the International Space Station. This first experience in the space industry made me want to join the teams of Arianespace. My work time is split between operations in and out of the launch campaigns, while I'm in charge of making sure that the various systems and methods are consistent. With Ariane 5, we've put in place a set of methods that have been made it possible for us to deliver a first-in-class reliability, and we have applied these methods on Soyuz and Vega to achieve the same quality across our 3 launch systems. The role of an assistant at the launch center consists in making sure that facilities are available for the current campaign, and once the launcher has lifted up, our job is to prepare for the next campaign, whilst guaranteeing that all ground facilities are kept up to speed. Therefore, the ELA assistant team comprises 3 people. The assistant, who reports directly to the Range Operations Director, and 2 specialists, one in electrical systems and one in mechanical and fluid systems, and the 3 of us guaranteed the availability of ground facilities throughout the various steps of the launch campaign. As a result, during the launch campaign, there is a very special phase referred to as the final countdown. This period starts at D-1 with the transfer of the launcher to its launch pad. And during this phase, we switch from our day-to-day scheduling with meetings from the launch center to an operational planning from the operations facilities, where the ground team will take turns in ensuring the coordinating function and piloting operations in real time so as to achieve an accurate H0 and liftoff in due course. What I enjoy as an operational engineer is that our job is hands-on, and as an assistant at ELA, I'm fortunate to be able to work with people from a wide variety of geographical origins and professional expertise, which is very valuable both personally and professionally.
All is well on board Ariane 5. We are going to be picked up shortly by our first downrange tracking station over the border in Brazil, a place called Natal.
Acquisition de la télémesure lanceur par la station de Natal au Brésil.
And we've just been picked up, as the DDO says. All of Ariane's trajectory has been designed to be followed from the ground, whether by land or by sea. Ariane sends data back to the ground stations, and these data tell us how the flight is progressing in real time. The launcher is sending radar and telemetry back in a network of stations, keep constant watch on her vital systems. The antenna pick up the signal and follow her progress. Telemetry, well, what is telemetry? It's call it measuring from a distance. You see the tele, the Greek prefix, tele, like in television. There are over 1,500 parameters to measure, all indicators of Ariane's health in flight. We analyze some of these data in real time. Other are examined after the flight to find out how the vehicle has performed. They've recorded her motor ignitions, motor shutdown, stage separations, all of that. So you can imagine the enormous archives this means, giving Arianespace an access to a wealth of technical information after over 200 flights of the Ariane family. Coming up on the end of the lower stage burn, there are 3 orders given by the onboard computer.
Séparation de l'étage principal cryotechnique.
There we just got confirmation by the DDO. 3 orders given by the onboard computer in about 12 seconds. Extinction of the lower
Fin de
stage.
visibilité de la station de Gallio à Kourou.
And separation of the lower stage, and then ignition of the upper stage. So we're now in the 3rd and final powered flight
Allumage de
phase.
l'étage supérieur.
Second stage is burning on a single engine, like the first stage. It carries a lot less fuel, though. 12 tons of liquid oxygen and 2.5 tons of liquid hydrogen. It'll burn in 16 minutes. The first stage carried 175 tons. We're lifting over 9.5 tons of hardware tonight with our 2 satellites. And remember, that's only possible with the heavy lift Ariane 5, the sole commercial launcher on the market capable of lifting 2 big passengers. More of the mission in a moment. But for now, the latest news from Arianespace.
La trajectoire est normale.
December 19th, Arianespace ended 2012 in style with successful launch of Ariane Flight 211, delivering Skynet 5D and MEXSAT Bicentenario. And just yesterday, in Baikonur, a Soyuz launched another 6 satellites in the global star fleet. Arianespace went around the world at the new year, meeting the press and its industrial partners, carrying this message: 10 straight years of success in launch service and solutions. Jean-Yves Le Gall was present in French Guiana, Paris, Madrid, Berlin and Rome. Then it was on to Brussels and the Union.